Good evening. Tributes have been paid to a father who was stabbed to death after confronting a group of teenagers. James Markham was killed on Monday evening outside his home in Chingford. One line of inquiry is the 45-year-old was trying to protect his daughter. Two 14-year-olds have been arrested in connection with his murder, and police are tonight urging parents to turn their children in if they think they were involved. Our correspondent Simon Harris has more.
Jamie Markham died just yards from his back door. He was stabbed to death after confronting a group of youths who were threatening his 17-year-old daughter. Yet another senseless killing on the streets of London. For a father to be murdered simply for trying to protect a child is disturbing enough, but so too is the age of his alleged attackers. Two 14-year-old boys have been arrested, and the police think other children were also involved.
It's just scary because I've got grandchildren and they're at the age where they're going to want to start going out. It's just unbelievable, really.
Hairdressers Georgia and Pinky work in a salon across the road.
It is scary, obviously, if you're talking about a very young community hanging around with knives. It makes us feel, on edge.
And for our clients as well, it's not nice that kids are always hanging around. So, yeah, it's really frightening.
In a local cafe, I spoke on Zoom to Chingford's MP, who was appalled.
The idea that a 14-year-old could possibly have murdered this father, just doing nothing else but protecting his daughter, should send absolute shockwaves through the system. This has to stop. We need policing on the street, visible to everybody.
There have been 82 murders in London this year. More than two-thirds, 57, involved a knife, and 23 of the victims were teenagers. Closer analysis of the capital's crime statistics reveals a worrying trend, and the police are all too aware of it.
There's an ever greater concentration of younger people, teenagers, who are carrying knives, and all too often you will see a phenomenon where there's 3 or 4 on one side having a fight with 3 or 4 on the other side, and they're carrying knives. So there's a huge amount for all of us in our city to do about that. It's a horrible phenomenon. I regret it.
Throughout the day, friends of the Markham family left flowers and messages outside the flat. This one read, "So sad, gone too soon." One of the 14-year-olds arrested was being held on suspicion of murder, the other on suspicion of plotting to murder. And tonight, the police appealed to parents who know their children were involved to turn them in. Simon Harris, ITV News, Chingford.
The woman who was killed when 2 buses crashed into pedestrians outside Victoria Station has been named. Melissa Burr, who was 32 and from Rainham in Kent, died during the morning rush hour on Tuesday. In a statement, her family said, "We are absolutely devastated by loss and the hole that this incident has left in our lives. Melissa was a kind and thoughtful soul, had a quirky charm with such a bright future ahead of her. As a family, we naturally want to understand how such a tragedy occurred, but for now, we just want time and space to mourn our beautiful Melissa." GCSE pupils across London opened their results this morning to find they had outperformed the rest of the country. The capital students got the highest percentage of grades at 7 or A and above. Like the A-level grades earlier in the week, these were decided by the teachers, leading again to questions about how fair a system that is for the future. From North Finchley, Chloe Keedy reports.
OK, 7 in Spanish.
They are the class of COVID. But today, even the face masks couldn't contain their joy. It was the moment of truth for GCSE students at this secondary school in North Finchley, finally getting their results and some relief.
How'd you get on?
I did pretty well.
8 in photography and English lit. I'm excited.
So I got in here, so I'm really happy. I did not do well in one subject, but the majority I'm quite proud of.
COVID has made its presence felt every step of the way. Today, students arrived in smaller, staggered groups to collect grades awarded to them by their teachers after their exams had to be cancelled.
I can still remember what this moment felt like, collecting that envelope and not knowing what was inside. Add to that all the uncertainty that these guys have faced over the past year and a half, and I can only imagine how nervous they must be feeling.
Right up until March or so, we just had no idea what was going on or whether we'd even do our exams or what form they'd take.
But like A-levels, GCSE results are at an all-time high this year. Before the pandemic, just over a quarter of pupils in London got top grades. Last year that rose to more than 31%, and this year it's 34.5%, the highest in the country. But the figures also show a growing attainment gap between state and private schools, leading to more questions about how the government plans to close it.
Well, we're very focused on education recovery. We've allocated over £3 billion to one-to-one tutoring, more money to schools to help children to catch up from the lost education during the pandemic. No child should suffer any long-term damage to their prospects as a consequence of the pandemic.
A lot of your younger students might be wondering what they should expect next year, but do you know what to expect?
No, and that's the thing. I think what we would ask for government is to know as early as possible, to have that certainty, because I think in knowing that system well in advance, we can make sure that the students are supported, that they've got that chance to be successful.
So still some uncertainty for teachers today, but for students, for the most part, just unbridled joy. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
Well, joining me now are two London head teachers, Tash Hurtado from Harefield Academy in Uxbridge and Omar Deria from the Cumberland School in Plaistow. Welcome to you both. Tash, I'll come to you first. How relieved are you to put a full stop on this academic year?
I think we're all very relieved to put a full stop on this academic year, the last 18 months. It's been incredibly challenging for staff and for students. We're delighted that we've come to the end of that line and can punctuate our students' achievements with their results today. But there is certainly a sense of needing to get back to some sense of normality as quickly as possible for our students. Mostly, I think, in relation to our capacity to explain to them what to expect in the future, what's coming in terms of their assessments and so on, rather than the uncertainty that's tempered the last couple of years.
Well, speaking of the future, the Schools Minister has ruled out teacher assessments in the long run. Do you think that is the right move to getting back to exams next year?
No, I think it would be a real shame to ignore the learning points, the enforced learning points of an unpleasant situation that has confronted us for the last couple of years. We should take something from the headlines that are coming through today and on Tuesday in relation to student outcomes. They do, of course, differ to previous years because the system that underpins the moderation and the standardisation of results has not been applied for the last 2 years, as you would expect. That there is a system in place that ensures that there is parity from one year to the next in terms of exam outcomes. Clearly, in the absence of exams, that hasn't been applied, and so it's not at all surprising that there would be differences. It's important that students who have been subjected to the incredible challenges that they have for the last couple of years have been best supported by referring to their teachers' understanding of their progress, their teachers' unique understanding of their personal impact through COVID, and has applied that in a fair and appropriate way to their assessment. There's an awful lot that we can learn about the fact that differs quite significantly from what exam outcomes show, particularly seeing as we used to have a system whereby students were assessed through coursework, some degree of teacher assessment and a wider vocational offer, which would have been hugely supportive to those from more disadvantaged backgrounds.
Let me bring in Tash, let me bring in Omar there if I can, just on that point. Omar, what balance do you think there should be between teacher assessment and exams coming back next year?
I think, it's the right time to have this debate with regard to teacher assessed grades. And what I will say though is, I think it whilst teacher assessed grades has, been applied in the last 2 years, I do really think going forward to make it a level playing field, we do need some form of externally assessed grades. I think some schools might have a rigorous system, in place in terms of standardizing their teacher assessed grades. But to make it a level playing field, I think, to have that form of external assessment returning next year, it is important for both schools and also for students to make the system fair.
Omar, something that was notable today, as it was with the A-levels the other day, is that the gap has widened between the independent schools and state schools, and between those students who get free school meals are even more disadvantaged this year. Why do you think that is?
I mean, whilst that has been evident, and and that's been widely reported in the media. I think something to celebrate. With regards to the GCSEs is some of the incredible work that some of the schools have been doing to make sure those gaps that do exist, don't widen. And one of the things that we've done in our school is to make sure that we support our students to get into some of the private schools nationally. And this year, we're quite fortunate as 1 in 20 of our Year 11 students have gained a fully funded scholarships to some of the independent schools. But there are a lot more work to do for all of us to make sure that those disadvantaged students, the gap that's already exists, doesn't widen any further.
Omar and Tash, thank you both very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
A group of veteran British Gurkha soldiers are staging a hunger strike and protest on Whitehall. The group are demanding pensions equal to that of the British soldiers they fought alongside. Their current pensions are designed for retirement in Nepal, where the cost of living is significantly lower than in the UK. The Ministry of Defence said the government was committed to providing Gurkhas a fair pension. The rapper Nines is facing jail after trying to import 28 kilos of cannabis into the UK. The musician, whose real name is Courtney Freckleton, admitted plotting to import the Class B drug from Poland and Spain at Harrow Crown Court earlier today. Nines was named Best Hip Hop Act at the MOBO Awards last year. He was arrested in June after a series of police raids. Now, you can probably guess someone's age by how they remember Una Stubbs. Was she Aunt Sally in Wurzel Gummidge, Alf Garnett's daughter Rita, or more recently, Mrs. Hudson in Sherlock? Whatever the role, she was much respected and much loved, as the many tributes have proved after her death at the age of 84. Mark McQuillan has been looking back at her career.
Una Stubbs' acting career spanned more than 50 years.
This prince that I seek, this man amongst men, he's brave, he's not weak.
The diversity of her talent highlighted by her role in Wurzel Gummidge, in contrast to the one she played in Till Death Us Do Part, alongside Alf Garnett.
You make me sick, you do. Eh? Yes, you do. I mean, you really do think that women are second-rate citizens. No, yes, you do.
Longevity may be difficult to achieve in the acting industry, but Una, born in Welwyn Garden City in 1937, did that with distinction, acting well into her 70s.
Don't snivel, Mrs. Hudson.
Appearing in popular TV series Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, who said tonight Una was a wonderful, talented, stylish, gentle, joyous and honest friend. A joy to work with, to laugh with and to make laugh. So humble and yet so damn good. And he wasn't the only person from Sherlock to pay tribute.
It was absolute joy to work with. Without doubt, the most popular person on that set. You just look forward to a day that Una was in. Always for the stories, always incredibly funny and charming and lovely. And despite that amazing career, the most humble person you ever met.
Right now, I'm just thinking about Una and how much I'll miss her. I mean, really, that there isn't. I can't quite think of anybody to match her, and yeah, I know we'll all miss her very much.
One of her last acting assignments was in Murder on the Blackpool Express. One of her co-stars says Una had a rare and prodigious talent.
The thing I have missed most about Una is literally just the joy and the warmth that she brought through the screen. I can't express enough how there are very few people in the world who can bring that technical kind of ability to do comedy and do it with a straight face. And she's just one of those people.
Oh, come on, we gotta go. The bus is ready.
Una, in the black top here, had the moves as well as a vast acting range. A talent who inspired many and a person who'll be greatly missed.
Remembering Una Stubbs there. One of the victims of the terror attack on Streatham High Road thought he was going to die after being stabbed. Convicted terrorist Sudesh Aman was killed after stabbing 2 people. The inquest into his death is being held at the Royal Courts of Justice. Sam Holder is there for us now. Sam, what did we hear today?
Well, Duncan, today we heard written testimonies from the two victims, the two people who were stabbed during the Streatham terror attack. Now, thankfully, both survived, but the severity of their injuries were dramatically different. Suresh Aman, the attacker, had only been released from prison 10 days earlier. He was considered such a threat that there was a team of covert undercover officers following his movements. On the 2nd of February 2020, he went into a hardware store and stole a knife. And the inquest heard that when he ran out, he immediately stabbed a woman. In her statement today, she said she didn't realise what had happened until passers-by told her she'd been stabbed. Again, thankfully, her injury was not serious, a 2-centimetre wound on her right shoulder. She received stitches in hospital and was able to go home the same afternoon. But Suresh Aman's next victim was far more severely hurt. A man, we didn't hear his name in court, he collapsed a few metres after being stabbed. And in his statement, he described how members of the public came to his rescue, taking off their clothes to stem the bleeding, something he believes helped to save his life. Now, we also heard from another eyewitness who described Suresh Aman lunging and apparently trying to stab a child, but missing. The team that were following him, the undercover officers, managed to shoot him and kill him before he managed to injure anybody else.
Sam Holder, thank you. Now, at this time of year, in workshops and warehouses across Notting Hill, floats and costumes are usually being prepared for Carnival. Like last year, this one won't be quite the same. Carnival, as we know it, was cancelled back in June when there was still a lot of uncertainty about COVID. But one part will be back, the Still Band competition. They are rehearsing tonight and Ria Chatterjee is with them. Hello, Ria.
Hi, Duncan. Look at all of these steel pans. I think we just want to hear them, don't we? So take it away, the Ebony Steel Band. What a lovely sound. Carleen, you're prepping now for this competition, which is actually a huge deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest steel pan competitions in the world, in England, yeah.
And I'm reading as well that it's one of the most respected outside of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it is. They have up to like 120 players, so a lot of people look forward to it.
Fantastic. And Marlo, coming over to you. Obviously, this didn't happen last year, so are you looking forward to performing?
I really, really am. I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity to get back to what we're doing, especially after the last couple of years. It's been such a challenge for the performing arts and carnival arts in particular.
And it's presumably had an impact financially on what you guys do.
Absolutely. I mean, carnival arts is predicated on in-person performance and on sponsorships, and it's been really, really hard to maintain that during the pandemic. So hopefully this event will be an opportunity for us to kickstart that and to get back to performing and doing what we love.
It's so exciting. And I'm joined now by the CEO of the Notting Hill Carnival. Matthew, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ria.
So, a difficult decision, right, to not be on the streets again this year?
Yeah, it's very difficult, but, you know, Carnival takes a lot more than a few weeks to put together. We've only recently really come out of lockdown, and it takes almost a year to prepare for Carnival. The costumes are not something that you can do in a matter of hours or weeks. It takes a long time, so there wasn't really enough time to put on the Carnival in the way that we want to.
And obviously, you know, you made this decision in June. Now lots of events are going ahead, festivals, we've had the Euros. Any sort of little bit of regret that the Carnival can't go ahead?
No, I don't think Carnival can be compared to any other event. You know, there's up to 2 million people come to Notting Hill Carnival, and there isn't anything like it in the UK. Or around the world, really.
OK, so finally then, what does Carnival mean to you, personally?
Carnival means freedom, unity. It's about people coming together. There aren't many things in the world, events that you can go to and you see people from all different walks of life, different backgrounds, just celebrating together at ease, smiling and enjoying the music, the food of Carnival.
What a lovely message, Matthew. Thank you so much. And on that note, guys, please play us out.
The Ebony Band and Ria, thank you very much. Next, it was a lifeline for a couple to help them through treatment for alcohol addiction, a book full of pages of advice and photographs to remind them of how far they have come. But Lisa Church and Lee Jackson's book has been stolen from their van, which was parked outside St George's, Tooting. Antoine Allen reports.
Literally on the day that I arrived, when my life was in a real bad way, I was given this book on day one as soon as I walked through the door. And it was the book that contained sort of the answer to all my problems.
This seems like any other book, but Lee says this book saved him from a life of drug and alcohol addiction. On Sunday it was stolen. Today Lee and Lisa are a healthy couple, but they share a bond of both being former addicts who are now sober.
The disease of addiction, it pulls you in and you just can't get out, which then also came with depression, anxiety, constant trips in and out of the doctors, desperately trying to stop. I kind of lost everything along the way. I lost my home and I lost jobs, and yeah, in the end it was just to a point where I couldn't see a way out, and it was my only thoughts was suicide.
Lee's book was stolen whilst he visited family at St George's Hospital in Tooting. And
it had messages from people all through the book, for people that I've met from all over the world, from the recovery process. It had a leather jacket on the book that I bought in America on like a recovery pilgrimage that I went on. So all that stuff's irreplaceable.
Lisa was left surprised by the support they received after she posted on social media about the theft of Lee's book and how much it meant to him.
It's absolutely beautiful that people are wanting us to have this book back, because and even from knowing from where we've came from.
You both freely give your time helping other people who have addiction, so this book's now gone. If you were to tell our audience, those people that may be struggling themselves, some words of advice, what would it be?
If you're stuck in that rat race, in that hamster wheel of the same day every day, Groundhog Day, doing the same thing over and over again, then reach out, ask for help, look up a meeting and get yourself to a meeting.
Antoine Allen, ITV News.
In the last few minutes, the news Chelsea fans have been waiting for. Romelu Lukaku has re-signed for Chelsea. The club posted this video on Twitter announcing the signing. The striker breaks the club's transfer record, moving from Inter Milan for £97.5 million. It's the third time the Blues have re-signed the striker, having last played for the club in 2014. On to the weather now, here's Philippa.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
Hello there. Well, it has been a rather cloudy day out there for many of us, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle as well. But for the next couple of days, things look fairly promising. A lot of dry weather on the cards, some nice sunny spells, and in the best of that sunshine, some nice warmth to be found as well. So what's going on? Well, low pressure will stay up towards the north through the next couple of days, high pressure down towards the south. And it's this area of high pressure which will tend to win out through the course of tomorrow and Saturday, keeping things dry and settled. But you will notice out towards the west, a little area of low pressure that will head our way through the latter part of the weekend, and it looks as though we could see some outbreaks of rain making their return by the start of the new week. But out there at the moment, today's cloud is now clearing away eastwards, and overnight tonight we'll be left with largely dry and clear conditions. Underneath those clear skies, a comfortable night for sleeping, with lows for just about all of us around 12 or 13 degrees. Tomorrow morning then, a much brighter start than we had today. Plenty of sunshine to begin the day, but do make the most of it. As we head into the afternoon, we'll see more cloud building generally, and it could be thick enough in places to produce one or two showery outbreaks. It will be a little breezier than today as well, and so despite highs of 23 or 24 Celsius, feeling just a touch fresher than that. Through the latter part of tomorrow and into the start of the weekend then, things look fairly quiet, so high pressure remains close by to the south and will hold on to dry and fairly clear conditions. So clear skies overnight and sunny skies to start off the weekend. For the rest of Saturday, we hold on to dry and fairly bright weather, a little more cloud bubbling up, but for Sunday I think a bit more cloud heading our way overall, and by the start of the new week, the chance of rain making that return. Bye-bye.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
And finally, just over 4 years ago, Chris Aves was paralysed in the Westminster attack after being hit by the van driven by the terrorist. Doctors told him he'd never move his legs again, so the off-duty police officer thought his time on the golf course was up too. But thanks to a charity and some new technology, he's back on the fairways, as Rags Martel reports.
They told him golf was over. Unable to move his legs, Chris Aves is now back in the swing. Did you initially think golf is out, I can't do golf?
Yep, totally. I thought that was it. I'm done. I have to pick up a new sport maybe that can be introduced for wheelchair users. But golf was my love, you know, and it was something I used to play quite often.
And this is the solution, a machine called the Paragolfer.
So I press a button on my keypad here to the position that you want to get to, and it goes all the way up into a near on standing position. Now I'm able to...
Ready to swing.
Ready to swing.
Chris is a police officer whose life was forever changed 4 years ago. The events during the Westminster Bridge terror attack are so horrific he can't remember them. His last memory was collecting a commendation award at the nearby Metropolitan Police headquarters. He awoke from a coma 8 days later, only to be told he'd been run over by a car during the incident.
I've now got a spinal cord injury. I'm a wheelchair user, and I just didn't think I could do things again in my life.
What goes through your mind when, you know, as an able-bodied golfer, and then suddenly everything changes overnight?
The fear that you can't do anything ever again. And that doesn't just include golf, it includes being a dad to my 2 loving children. It includes going out drinking with my pals on a Friday night into the pub. Everything changes from being an able-bodied person into a wheelchair user.
And what went through your mind when you suddenly realised the potential of this Paragolfer?
Oh, I was overcome with joy. When I hit my first golf ball, it brought a tear to my eye. It really was. It just made everything so happy for me, realising that golf can now be part of my life again.
And you knew golf before,
yeah,
and you know golf now. What's the difference?
Honestly, there is no difference. Golf is golf.
Paragolfers aren't cheap though. Prices start from £17,000, but the charity, the Golf Trust, wants more people to use them.
So you can imagine it's not the easiest thing for an individual to purchase, which is why it's so important that us as a charity can have as many of them as possible to allow people to just try and take part in the sport without having any of the problems with the expense of it.
I think there's people sat at home not realising that there's something for them to do. So anyone that might have a spinal cord injury, anyone with MS or anything like that, that thinks, oh no, golf's not for me, actually it is, because there's a Paragolfer available. It's excellent. Golf is back in my life.
Chris is now planning to take ill health retirement from the police force, but his next challenge is the Cairns Cup, a golf tournament against America next year. Rags Martel, ITV News.
And that is it for now. We're back with the latest after news at 10. Coming up, Charlene with the ITV Evening News. But from me and the rest of the London team, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.